everybody. I'm Rachel Carter, and I am very, very excited to be hosting this live chat today with Beth Revis. Beth is a native of North Carolina. Hi, Beth. And she is the author of the New York Times best-selling series, Across the Universe, which have been published in 20 languages, which is bananas. And her newest book, The Body Electric, came out on October 6th, which is awesome. And so before we get started, I know, I'm so excited you're here and hosting you. So before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about The Body Electric and, what's been going on with that and what it's about?
So my first book was Across the Universe, and it was basically a murder mystery in space, and it talked about how Amy and Elder got on a spaceship and all that. But then when I got to Shades of Earth, the last book, I was kind of curious as to what was happening on Earth, because they do communicate with Earth, but it's not a very, let's say friendly. It's not a very friendly place. So I was like, what was that like? And that's where The Body Electric came from, and not so shiny there. And The Body Electric is really what's happening on Earth while Amy and Elder were in space. And it follows the story of Ella, a girl who lives in the capital, which is in the island nation of Malta, because I decided to put the capital of the world there. And so she's living there, and she finds out that she has the ability to go into people's dreams and alter their dreams and their memories and use this technology to kind of spy on people. And when the government tries to use that, she finds out that somebody has done that to her. And so now she doesn't know who to trust. Except probably that cute boy. He looks reliable.
Those cute, mysterious boys are always the way to go.
Always.
Okay, so let's do our first question. It is from Trisha, and it says, how did you come up with the idea to create a whole new world, and how did you keep the science straight? Do you have a binder that serves as a reference?
To do the whole world, it actually was easy for me because that's the thing I like. Like, I find plot and world fairly easy, but characters are really, really hard. So I will do whole revisions based on making the characters seem realistic and funny and that sort of thing. But the world I have fun playing with, I sort of just make it up as I go. And as the character moves forward, that's where the next bit of the world comes from in my imagination. I'll never forget when I was writing Across the Universe, there's the map of the cover, inside the cover of the ship. And when my publisher wanted to make that map, they asked me, what does the outside of the ship look like? And I had to say, I have no idea. They don't go outside the ship. And so that was kind of the funny point, but that's how I work as a writer, is I just describe it as I get there. To keep the science straight, it was sort of the same thing. I would go to wherever I needed to be in the story that needed the science, and then just research that on the spot and sort of build it into the story from there. And I kept it pretty organized using Scrivener, which is where I write all of my books. It's a writing program, and it's brilliant, and I love it, and I don't think I could write a book without it.
That's great. Okay, this is from Alexandra, who says, hello, Beth, fellow Whovian and star lover. Sci-fi is one of the most demanding, challenging genres. How well must a wannabe author be informed?
By the way, I totally am a Whovian, and if you look above my hair, you can see my little TARDIS back there. I think it depends on what kind of sci-fi you want to write. If you want to write something that's very technical, like Weir's novel, The Martian, that had enough science in it that if you actually had to bring a person back from Mars, I'm pretty sure NASA could use that as a manual. So that would require a ton of research. If you want to do a space opera, which is something like Star Wars or Star Trek, or if you wanted to do something that's more light sci-fi, it's not so much about having the specifics of all the science completely worked out, and it's more about having enough in there to make the story believable. So all you have to do is make sure your story makes sense with a basic understanding of your world.
I think that's a really great point about sci-fi, which can be very hard to write. Okay, this is from Yara. What kind of music do you listen to? I read on your blog that you've been listening to a lot of pentatronics. I don't even know what that is.
I listen to a huge variety of music, but actually, here lately, the thing that has gotten me the most is ambient noise. And there's this channel that has, you can get ambient noises from your favorite movies and books and things like that. And there's one that's the Gryffindor Common Room. And it's like a crackling fireplace and rain on the windows and like people drinking from coffee cups and things like that. And it just really is nice to listen to. And I sound like a total dork when I say that, but I really, really like the ambient noise.
No, that's a really good idea, I think. Um, okay, this is from Alex. Are you a Firefly and Buffy fan? Which world would you rather live in? That's a great
I
question.
am totally a Firefly fan. I have seen Buffy. I was not allowed to watch it as a kid because I came from a very conservative area. And I am one of the few, like, 10 people on Earth who actually liked the movie that came before the TV series. So I was like, I will reject this television series, but then it ended up being, like, really, really good, and the movie's kind of dumb. So I had poor taste as a teenager. Let's just say that. I'm catching up on Buffy. But I'm a hardcore Firefly fan. I adore it. I would totally live in that world, as long as I got to live with Captain Tie Pants. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I actually have references to Firefly in every single one of my novels.
I think it might honestly be like a prerequisite of being a YA author that you have to love Joss Whedon.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially any author who's going to kill a character, you have to love them.
Yeah, right? Joss Whedon's specialty is he like gets you in the heart and then he stabs you in it and you like don't see it coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then kind of makes a mild joke as you bleed out on the floor.
Yeah, and somehow it's still funny. You don't even know where it came from. Yeah, love him.
Yeah.
Okay, this next question is from Janine, and it says, how many books did you write before you published across the universe? Was the publishing process stressful?
This question. I wrote 10 novels over the course of 10 years before I wrote Across the Universe. And all of them were rejected. I queried all of them, and so I have roughly about 1,000 rejection letters for my books. And it was hugely stressful. It's the whole reason why I took up vodka. It was so painful, but in the end, it was totally, totally worth it.
I actually, fun fact, I first met Beth at RT a couple years ago and the Romantic Times convention. And
Mhm.
I had seen you on a panel where you talked about that, how you had these trunk novels. And it was
I think
like, I carried that with me. I still think about it.
I think it's really, really important because there are a few people who write one novel and it gets published, and I don't want to say it's easy because writing is never easy, but it's a lot easier than spending a decade waiting for this to happen. So, I mean, there are those success stories that go so quickly, and every time I saw that when I was writing, it was like a stab. It was like Joss Whedon stabbing me in the heart all over again because I wanted it so much, and it just wasn't happening. But I also think it's really important for people who have the hundreds of thousands of pages of novels that aren't written to talk about it because the reality is most of us have at least one trunk novel that's not published. Not everyone has 10.
Yeah. No, it's really true. And I think it's really important to talk about the ways publishing art isn't always this glamorous process. I think you're totally right.
Yeah, I mean, in
Okay,
the end of the day, it's a business.
it is. Yeah, exactly. And it
Hmm.
can be heartbreaking because, you know, you put so much into it as a writer, as an aspiring writer, and it can be really hard sometimes.
Yep.
Um, okay, this next question is from Liam. What do you think contributed to the boost of the YA genre? This is an intense question. 10 years ago, it wasn't as big as it is now.
Um, the easy answer to this is Harry Potter, followed by Twilight, followed by Mockingjay. Like, those were the three biggest books, not just in YA and middle grade, but across all genres of literature. Those were the most popular books. So the easy answer is those three books earned so much money that people like me and you, Rachel, and every other single YA writer out there could build a career off of it. So, I mean, those three books really, really made a huge difference. And I know some people don't like all three of them, but any way you look at it, they made money and they made the genre. But I think the reason why they became so popular is because they really showed this evolution of what readers wanted. And what they wanted was a really truthful, heartfelt story that is sometimes funny, sometimes tragic, but always engaging. And that's something that YA almost always brings. And that's what's led to it staying past those three major books.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. So this next question is from Karina. I'm curious to know if you are planning on writing more about Ella and Jack after The Body Electric.
Well, originally the book was going to be a trilogy, but in the end I decided that it did not need to be all three books. I was able to get the whole story out in one book. But one of the things that I cut was some of the backstory of the side characters. I really love Akila, who's Ella's best friend. I have a whole long backstory for her that I was never able to incorporate. So my current plan is to release an anthology of works of the short stories that I wrote for Across the Universe and the short stories that I have planned for Godspeed and release those out. So not a complete book, but more short stories and novellas.
I think that sounds awesome. I kind of love lately how I feel like in publishing you're able to, I don't know if it's because of the internet or the way things are working now, but and there's so many novellas, there's so many people who are able to continue their stories in these unorthodox
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
really interested in doing things like that.
okay, yes, I think it's awesome. This next question is from Mina, and it said, I read that in addition to being an author, you work as an English teacher. How do you divide your time, and do your students read your books?
I used to work as an English teacher. I was able to quit after I completely finished Across the Universe. So I was teaching during Across the Universe, and it was that last semester when I was finishing up edits on Across the Universe that I realized I couldn't do both. Because my final edits for the book were due on the exact same day as I had to grade all 100 of my students' final exams. And I realized there was no way I could possibly do this forever. So I did have to quit teaching, and it was really sad. I always wanted to have that job where you could kind of walk into the office and be like, you can take this job and shove it. And instead, I cried the whole time. I was like, I don't want to go, but I had to go. But my kids, my former students do still read them. I get messages on Facebook from them saying that they want to be killed off in the next novel. And actually, in A Million Suns, every character that is named that is killed off is named after a former student.
That's adorable.
Well, I set a precedence because I was writing Across the Universe when I was a teacher, and I had this one kid who drove me up the wall, and he's the first guy that's murdered on the ship. So I kind of set this precedence to kill them.
Oh, their poor little Joss Whedon hearts. You're getting them off.
They were so proud and happy of it.
I love it. And sometimes as a writer, like you run out of names for like
Oh
you
my
have to
gosh,
come up
yes.
with so many names. I never thought about that part. And yeah, so
Oh yeah.
that's a great thing. Yeah.
I have pulled names from signing lines because when you're signing the books and people tell you your name to dedicate it to, I've pulled names from that. And I mean, I've told them, like Tiernan, who runs the BookTuber YouTube channel, I pulled his name. There's a Tiernan in Shades of Earth because I was like, that is an awesome name. I'm taking it.
I want to steal that name. That's a great name. um, okay, so this next question is from Wendy, and it says, so are you going to be the first one on the shuttle when us commoners are able to travel into space?
I would totally sign up for Virgin Galactic and maybe a cruise around the moon. I could do that. I am not going to Mars and signing away my life. That is crazy. And there's a lot of shit that can go wrong, and I do not want to be involved in that. But I will go to the moon. I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, this one is from Heidi. This is a great question. Would you rather be stuck in space or on Earth fighting in a zombie apocalypse?
Space. Like, zombies are freaky weird, and I don't want to be involved in them in any way, shape, or form. I will go to space.
Yeah, I think any sane person would. Like, zombies are not a good time.
No, 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 no. And I mean, even
Um,
if you die in space, at least it's pretty.
right? Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, you're not getting like your throat and like just blood and guts and stuff. Okay, this question is from Lynn. What YA authors do you read, if any? If you could co-write a book with one of them, who would it be and why?
I pretty much only read YA, so I read almost all of them. I just finished last night The Kiss of Deception by Mary Pearson, and it's a fantasy novel, and as with everything Mary Pearson writes, it was gorgeous. And I've started Illusions of Fate by Kirsten White, who always makes stuff funny and heartbreaking at the same time. So I'm always reading YA. I don't really know if I could co-write a book.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bossy, and I don't know if I would play well with others. I don't like to share my toys. So it would not be them. It would not be their fault. It would be entirely because I am weird, and I don't think I could do it.
It does seem like, though, in our world, in our YA world, there are so many collaborations, more than in other genres, I feel.
And it always seems like they're really good friends. Like I know Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman, and they're awesome people. They write great books, and they're friends. And I'm like, if I had to write a book with someone else, I would end up stabbing them. Like, there's no way we could be friends through the editing process.
I know, we'd start as friends, but we would not end there. Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so this next question, this is something that Beth and I were talking a little bit before this, and it's sort of all over the Twitter world right now, the kind of the controversy that's happening. But this question from Trisha is, do you read your reviews? How do you deal with a bad reviewer? Hopefully not like that author who stalked them.
I can guarantee you I will never stalk a reviewer because that would require me to put pants on and leave my house. And I don't like doing that. So there's no way that's going to happen ever. I do actually read reviews sometimes. I know a lot of authors are warned not to read their reviews, but it actually doesn't bother me. And I think that's because when I first wrote Across the Universe and I was getting the reviews in, I had one review that said, I hate this book. It is so slow-paced. I can't stand it. And immediately below that, there was another reviewer that said, I love this book. It's so fast-paced. It was amazing. So, I mean, everyone has a different opinion, and after I read that, I really just have an emotional disconnect to reviews. I check them out, especially when the book first comes out, because I want to see kind of the reaction, and then I honestly just kind of quit caring about them. I mean, I like that they're there, don't get me wrong. Like, I appreciate every review, but they don't affect me on an emotional level. I have a separation between myself and work, usually.
Yeah, which is important and probably a cornerstone of the whole argument that's going on right now, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about that, Beth wrote a really awesome blog post about it on her website, so you can go to her website and read more about her thoughts there. But this next question is from Liza, and it says, which character in The Body Electric do you have the most in common with and the least?
That is a very interesting question. I think I probably have the most in common with Jack, who is the character who's trying to fight for the truth, but he doesn't really know how to go about doing it. He has noble intentions, and he wants to do the right thing, but he doesn't always know how to do it, and he's sort of thrust in this situation where he doesn't really have control, and he doesn't really have the firm ground beneath his feet that he wants. I also really do like Ella, but I have not been in her situation. And ironically, I think I kind of channel Ella's parents because they make the same decisions I think I probably would have made if I was a parent in the future with a teenage daughter in a situation like that.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they relate the most to the parents in a YA novel, like, ever.
Maybe it's because the parents had, like, they're in the background. They're not major characters, but they had such motivating force for what ultimately happened to her that I really had to think about why they would do what they did. So maybe that's where that's coming from.
No, it's interesting, and I think there's something about growing up too, where you start to maybe relate a little bit more with authority figures.
Yes.
Okay, so this question is from Brianna, which says, your books are stellar. Why do you think everyone wanted to see a wider variety of science fiction rather than just dystopian novels? Do you think you delivered?
Well, I hope I delivered. I mean, that's definitely the hope is that I delivered on that. And thank you. I'm glad you liked my books. I think people really, they want a wide variety of everything. I mean, you see that in every single genre there is. If there's a lot of one thing, pretty soon there's going to be the opposite of that thing or a different variation of it. We see right now, I'm seeing a lot of Snow White retellings. I bet you it won't be very long until we start seeing Cinderella or some other genre of retelling, just because we're like a thing, but we always want something else from the thing. Variety is amazing.
And yeah, I also just love how much sci-fi is starting to. I don't know that it has ever kind of hit the huge wave that dystopian got, but and now
Yeah.
maybe fantasy is getting. But it is nice to see that people are reading it again too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this question is from Lynn. Do you have any tips for debut authors when it comes to marketing their books when it is released?
I think the biggest thing is to find the niche where you're comfortable and to really play on that. Like, if you are good in public, do as many book fairs and public events that you can do. If you are not good in public, you really don't have to do them. There's not one thing that will make or break you at all. If you like social media, be on social media. If you hate social media, don't. I mean, I always point to Suzanne Collins because she has a web page from like 1992 and she doesn't do very many appearances at all, and that has not affected her in the least. If your book is good, it will find a way.
Yeah, and there's
Oh,
such a
and don't
huge
spend too much
community.
money.
Yeah, you can spend a lot of money, I think.
Yeah. There was a lot of money I spent my debut year, and I'm like, oh, that was really stupid.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to know in the beginning too, like what's gonna work and what isn't. And you're right. It's like, and people, I think they can sniff out what feels inauthentic.
Yeah. And I think people also, they just want to give their book the very best chance they can. And they're like, I'll do anything to give my book the best chance I can. But it's not, often it's not about marketing because honestly, no one person's reach is going to be big enough. So it's just about writing the right book. So if you have the right book, you've done the best you can.
Yes, I think that is go with that. Okay, this next question is from Michael. Did one of your books really go into space? Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yes, and actually I can show you the actual book. So hold on. If I don't like lose all my cords. Don't look at my closet, it's all dirty in there. Um, this is the actual book that actually went into space. It's stuck. Okay, I can't get it out, but that's the actual book, I promise. And what they did was they got a weather balloon and they hooked it up to a weather balloon and sent it up to where you can see the curvature of the Earth. And so it was really good. Like, it's not true space, but I mean, it didn't go to the moon, but it went above Earth, and that was awesome. I really, really liked it. It was actually my idea because I was seeing a lot of like commercials that had weather balloons in them, and I was like, if they can send a Lego up there, I think they can send my book. And I told my publisher about it, and they thought it was a good idea, and they hooked up with a guy in the Midwest, and he sent it up as part of his classroom project, and it was awesome. The very first thing I did when I opened it up out of the package was sniff it. I was like, I'm sniffing space air.
That's insane. That's incredible.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah. Okay, this next question is from D Books, and it asks, this is the toughest question, I think, but it asks, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book growing up was Chronicles of Narnia. And I know that some people have issues with it because it is very allegorical. But it was the first time that I read a book when I was a kid, and I realized that there was more to the book than just the story, that there were symbols behind it and things. It was almost like a puzzle that I could figure out, and I really loved that. But since then, I would say my favorite book as an adult is probably the third Harry Potter book, because it was the first time that I really saw that you could have a funny book that was still tragic and it still meant something. Because I was reading it when I was in college, and I was very, very determined to be the good little college girl. So I read all the dead white Europeans, Shakespeare, and all the rest of them. But Harry Potter actually told a good story while still being hugely entertaining. And that really affected the way that I looked at books. It didn't have to all be high class, deep meaning. It could be a story that meant something to you on a more personal level.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite Harry Potter too, I think.
It's obviously the
Um,
best.
Clearly the best, yeah. But like the one that got serious, Like, yeah, it was really good.
which is the name of my dog, Sirius.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, this question is from Alex, and it asks, quick, 3 facts that your fans might not know about you.
Ooh, one fact would be that I have one thumb that's shorter than the other because my brother smashed it in a car door and my mom said, ah, it's not broke, get in the car. And it was totally broken, so I have a gimpy thumb. I also have double jointed shoulders, so my arms come out kind of weird. Um, and I love pasta. We'll just go with that. I really love pasta.
I think that that is a very good fact. Yeah. Okay, this next question is from Janine again. It says, who would you cast as the leads of The Body Electric were it to be made into a feature film or television series?
I have no idea who I would actually cast. For Ella, the person who I refer to, if you've watched the Secret Diary, or the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, if you've seen those, Darcy's little sister Gigi, I really liked her haircut, and so I sort of used her as a reference model for Ella, but she would have to be somebody who was Maltese or at least had a darker skin tone and a more ethnic look. For Jack, I kind of based him on Max Irons. I thought he had a really good look, but I'm not good on the actors. Whoever they cast would be awesome.
It is such a, I feel like that is such a common question that YA authors get all the time. I mean, you must have it gotten it a million times on Across the Universe, right?
Oh yeah, all the time. And I used to be able to say like Molly Quinn, who plays the daughter on Castle. She's actually who I based Amy on. But I kind of made Elder up in my head, and that Elder is the one that everybody wants to know. They're like, "What hot boy would you cast?" I'm like, I don't know.
Also, it's such like a finite moment in time. Like now, everybody I picked like 3 years ago is like too old now, you know?
Oh yeah, totally. Everyone that I was originally thinking of would no longer fit for a teenage role.
Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting question. It's from Brenda, and it asks, have you had any weird or interesting fan encounters online or in person?
I actually haven't had that many. Not too bad. I've had a few people who probably needed to calm down a little bit or something like that. I think the strangest thing I've seen in person was well, two of them. One was I was on a tour and a boy wanted all the authors, there were like 6 or 7 of us, to sign his bare chest. And that was a little awkward because, I mean, signing body parts is kind of weird. And then I had one person who brought to another author that was on the tour with me a piece of carved bone, and that was a little odd because then you're kind of like, who or what bone is it? Why did you carve it? But fortunately, it wasn't me, so I just let her deal with it.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we have time for just one more question. And this one is from Liam, and it says, what's next for you? What are you working on that you can tell us about?
Well, I am working on a short story anthology for Across the Universe and the Body Electric. Just in my free time, I'm hoping to get that out eventually. It's not something I'm rushing on. And the same with Paper Hearts, which is my writing advice book that I have free on Wattpad. I have one book that is currently with my publisher, Penguin, and it is maybe going to come out in the summer of 2016, but it's still pretty early about that. I can't tell you anything about it because it's still in its very, very baby stages. And I'm also working on an epic fantasy novel that has monsters in it, and I'm really excited.
Ooh, I feel like fantasy and sci-fi kind of go hand in hand sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you love one, you love the other.
Yeah, for sure. That it was so nice hosting you, and all your answers have been fabulous. So thank you so much for coming. Do you have any like last thoughts or words or anything you want to say to everybody?
I just want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you, BookTrib and Rachel, for hosting me. This was awesome and so much fun.
Yes, thank you so much. And everybody, make sure to head over to booktrib.com to enter to win a copy of Beth's new book, The Body Electric. And we're giving away a few, so you could be one of the lucky winners. So head over there, and thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you.
Bye.